I want to play something else for you that took place at the meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping. I want to get your take on it. This is Donald Trump talking about denuclearization. Because, as you know, the Trump administration has decided to renew nuclear weapons tests. Now, they're doing this probably because they got freaked out by Russia's new doomsday weapons. And that's, Lord knows, those weapons are terrifying, right? Like, they've came out with the new one, Poseidon, that can effectively create tsunamis, which again is terrifying. It's an underwater weapon that has a nuclear motor that can carry nuclear capacity or nuclear payload, can detonate apparently underwater and create tsunamis that effectively wipe out cities. So London will be toast if a war took place. The coast of the U.S. toast if necessary. Like, this is a true science fiction doomsday weapon using elements of nature in order to strike that weapon. The other one, oh God, I'm going to screw up the name. I'm just going to call it the Storm. I'm going to call it the Storm. That's the translation. But it's like Berezhnik or something to that effect. That thing, again, nuclear motor, can fly for forever and hit whatever target, flying vertical, horizontal, in order to evade air defense systems. Sarmat, that one is called Satan, Orezhnik, like these are like a new class of just science fiction weapons. Donald Trump gets, I guess, paranoid and is like, we need to start nuclear testing, as if that's going to matter. Listen to what he says, though, after announcing that he wants to do nuclear testing. This is right here.
With the nuclear announcement, just one more on the nuclear announcement. Do you worry that we're entering a more risky environment when it comes to nuclear issues?
No, I don't think so. I think we have it pretty well locked up. But we have more than anybody. But I see them testing. I say, well, if they're going to test, I guess we have to test. I'd like to see a denuclearization because we have so many, and Russia has some. Russia's second, and China's third, and China will catch up within 4 or 5 years. I think de-escalation would be, they would call it denuclearization, would be a tremendous thing. And it's something, we are actually talking to Russia about that, and China would be added to that if we do something. Thank you all. It was a great...
They are not talking to Russia about it. Trump is not even talking to Russia about the new START treaty that is going to expire coming up at the first of the year. And how do you have denuclearization talks when you are heading a war in Ukraine and you are marshaling forces in Asia to go after China?
No, you don't. I mean, you don't. And the fact that U.S. want to see, first of all, he has his facts wrong. Russia has the most nuclear warheads. United States is second. Now, right now, the reason they freeze the nuclear live testing is for many reasons. One is the big nuclear powers no longer need to have live nuclear tests because they have performed enough tests to get all the data. And from now on, they could, because they also have the compute, they have the supercomputers to model new nuclear, like non-live nuclear tests. Now, this is actually to the advantage of big countries like US, Russia, and China, whereas countries like North Korea and possibly Iran, a live nuclear test will actually benefit them for them to, to observe and collect data. And I don't know why Trump get this idea that he needs to do live nuclear testing. This actually doesn't confer a lot of advantage to United States. On the contrary, you will help countries like North Korea who can then, observe what happens and collect data on that. You will help their nascent nuclear program. So, but this is Trump, right? I mean, this is he was a lot of things he says doesn't make sense. He was famously, talking to the U.S. Navy and said, I am in favor of the steam catapult. The electromagnetic catapult is a piece of crap. We don't need electromagnetic catapult. We can just keep using steam catapult. Right? I mean, he's like your president for the steampunk future. And, it's not saying that the steam catapult it's obsolete, but there's a reason U.S. military has tried to move from the steam catapults to the electromagnetic catapult. The problem right now is they got embarrassed because China perfected the electromagnetic catapult before United States, because so far the USS Ford, the U.S. most advanced super carrier, their electromagnetic catapult still cannot launch F-35. Whereas China's they came up from behind, but now they're launching fifth generation stealth aircraft on their aircraft carriers electromagnetic catapult. But Trump's solution is, you know what, the steam catapult works great. We should just scrap the electromagnetic catapult and let's just stick with steam, right? I mean, like, we can make a whole anime out of the steampunk president Trump. But that's Trump. Half of the things he says doesn't make sense. So I don't know how seriously we should read his announcement. We'll have to see if U.S. military actually pursues his policies of live nuclear weapon testing, because I just don't see how that actually helps U.S. vis-a-vis Russia or China. But you will help other countries. You will help North Korea and Iran.
I think it's more for optics, to be honest. I think it's what we need to show, like when Donald Trump, when he was presented with the new, I keep mispronouncing the name of this weapon. It is a very difficult name to pronounce. It's like Berezhnik or something to that effect.
Orishnik.
No. There's Oreshnik.
Orishnik.
But then there's the new one that has the nuclear motor that can fly around the globe. And they tested it, flew around the globe for like 15 hours. And it could loiter, it can hit pretty much any target. It starts with a B. It's like the Berezhnikit or something to that effect. Let me see if I can find it. But when Trump was pushed on this, was saying, hey, did you see that Russia announced that their new weapon is out and that they're going to start putting this on the battlefield? And Trump's response was somewhat dismissive for it. He was like, hey, basically they need to end the war. They need to stop coming out with these new terrifying weapons. And so it sounds like there's a level of insecurity that's taking place, that he sees, okay, Russia is showing these weapons.
I think if you understand that the fact that he's Trump knows what's good, what plays for the television. He knows what's good for TV, and he knows how to do sound bites. I mean, if you just take it from that, like, a lot of his action and a lot of his speech is very explainable. Like you said, it's for optics. It's for optics. It's for posturing, right? And it doesn't have any other deeper meaning than that, Jamar.
Yeah, I don't think it does either. I think he's probably going to blow something up and saying, see, we have nuclear weapons too. So, Russia is showing off its weapons. It's almost like, this sounds very horrible. It's like in fact, I'm not even going to say it. It's a contest. It's a male showing off contest, right? Where, okay, Putin has shown.
That's exactly what it is. We have a bigger mushroom cloud than you. We have a bigger mushroom cloud.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for cleaning it up, Carl. Thank you for cleaning it up. Yeah. I was trying to think of a better way to say it. And I was like, okay, that sounds very vulgar. But that's what it is, right? I get why Putin is doing it. Putin is doing it because he's trying to make the point of saying, you guys are encroaching on our border, and you don't seem to get that I am serious about this. So I get that, right? It's like you're continuously pushing. Macron is talking about putting troops in. Those people are going to die. You have overthrown the government of Ukraine. You are now talking about potentially having NATO getting involved in the war, Okay, I need to get across to you that I'm very serious. You're talking about launching missiles at Russia. Okay, there are consequences to that. And we need to show that we have not just equality, but dominance. Trump seems to be doing it in response to that. But then to say after making an announcement of we're going to hold nuclear tests, oh, also what we need to do is denuclearize. One of the things that he keeps pointing out also is, well, look, we want to have conversations with Russia about it, but we want to add China into it. Is China ever going to enter in any kind of nuclear, let's say, limitation talks with the United States and Russia in some kind of joint capacity? Oh, that's off the table. Yeah.
Why? I mean, right now, China's goal is to reach some sort of nuclear parity first with U.S. I mean, U.S. has an interest to cap China's nuclear arsenal growth, right? That's in U.S. interest. This is why it's in U.S. interest to get China to sign some kind of treaty limiting the nuclear weapon arsenal growth. But China's like, look, you already have thousands of warheads. At least let us have a couple thousand warheads first, and then we can talk, right? And so I think China's goal is gonna reach somewhere around 1,000 nuclear warheads before they will agree to any kind of talks. But you know what Trump is doing though? He's doing a reverse Roosevelt, right? I mean, Roosevelt said you should talk softly but carry a big stick. What Trump is doing is talk very loudly but carrying an increasingly diminishing smaller stick. This is what U.S. is doing right now. Talking loudly and carrying a diminishingly smaller and smaller stick.
Yeah. So declining empire. I mean, he's dealing with the cards that he has at his disposal. Where it's funny, whereas Obama seemed to try to manage a declining empire, Trump doesn't seem to get the fact that it's declining, and he seems to kind of be made aware of it in one instance after the next as he hits his head on that reality. It's very strange. It's very wild. It's like he doesn't have the capability of recognizing the situation to which he finds himself. It's just very weird. So tell me something. When China is looking out at the world and it's looking out, let's say, at the next 5 years, I know it has its next 5-year plan. How is it viewing the world? How is it viewing various events? When it's looking at the Ukraine war, when it's looking at the issue in Iran, for example. From my understanding, China has aligned itself pretty heavily with Iran in regards to weapon systems and everything else. One of the reports came out that they said, of course, it's U.S. media, despite UN sanctions. Now, keep in mind, the UN sanctions are just Western sanctions. Russia and China was like, these are nonsense. You guys, have blew off the JCPOA, and then you're attacking Iran for responding to the fact that they were attacked. Meaning, A, you blew off the JCPOA. There's that. B, Iran was in negotiations, and the United States and Israel attacks Iran while they're in the middle of negotiations. Europe, instead of being an honest actor, turns around and attacks Iran also, saying Iran has no right to hit Israel, despite the fact that Israel attacked Iran. And these were the countries that decided we're going to have snapback sanctions because Iran feels some kind of way that the organization that was supposed to be the IAEA, that was supposed to be a nonpartisan
I
actor.
think I lost you for a moment, Jamar.
Oh, can you hear me? Carl, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm back. I think there's a little bit internet latency issue because for me, around this time of the day is when the massive slowdown on the internet. So, yeah.
Oh, not an issue. I'll shorten the question. Has China been working with Iran in the context of
Did you have a question? Sorry, I didn't catch it. If you had a question.
No. I'll ask it this way. Has China been working with Iran in the context of helping them rebuild weapon systems, missile systems, supplies necessary to build those missile systems?
Well, it's very simple. China does not want Iran to fail, the same way China does not want Russia to fail. So China has been supplying Iran with materials necessary to making missiles, which is one of the strongest weapon in Iran's arsenal right now. And we have heard of talks of Iran purchasing air defense systems from China, and I'm sure China will be more than happy to provide these if Iran asks, because the goal for China is stability. Unlike United States, U.S. modus operandum is lighting fire all around the world. So U.S. itself seems this oasis of calm. So make all the wealthies around the world to continue to park their money in the U.S. Treasury, U.S. stock market, and U.S. real estate market. That was the U.S. gig. But for China's Belt and Road initiative to succeed, you want stability. The one thing China really hates is instability, right? And China sees that if Iran were to fail, would be heavily destabilizing in Middle East, for example. So for that reason, alone, China would not want Iran to fail. And so but a lot of the things, unlike United States, where it talks very loudly and carrying a diminishing stake, China does not usually openly talk about these kind of things. There's a lot of under the table deal. We will find out. We usually find out much later that such transaction has been taken place. So for us, it's sometimes it's hard to speculate, the extent of cooperation, but you can be sure there is.
Well, there's also a geopolitical reason beyond instability. Like, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Iran is a linchpin, not just to China, but also to Russia. It's like for example, everywhere the United States turns, it's either running into China, Russia, or Iran. And all of these things are intractable from the standpoint of U.S. foreign policy. It wants to hand this stuff off. And the way it's trying to hand it off to is, okay, maybe I can get the Philippines, South Korea, Japan to deal with China. Maybe I can get Europe to deal with Russia. Maybe I could get Israel and their greater Israel project to deal with Iran. Obviously, Europe is not in a position to deal with Russia. Obviously, those other smaller countries are not in a position to deal with China. And Israel, after taking a beating in the 12-day war, doesn't seem like it's in a position to deal with Iran. By the same token, though, there's a belief that the United States and Israel will go to war, or at the very least are planning some kind of war against Iran. Will China stand by and allow Iran to fail? I guess that's one of the main questions. I mean, that's often a question for Russian experts also. But give me your take on it. How do you see it?
Well, like I said before, I don't think if Iran by itself, it has more than enough capability to handle with Israel on its own. The big question is, would United States get directly involved? I mean, U.S. is already involved through its backing of Israel, but the question is whether U.S. would get directly involved in a kinetic war with Iran. My guess is no. Otherwise Trump wouldn't have done that, intentional glancing blow at the Iranian nuclear facility the way he did a few months back. Because Trump, I don't think he has appetite for a big, potentially a quagmire, nightmare scenario. Because he lived long enough through Iraq and Afghanistan. He probably would not want that on his legacy. He would go for very quick, low-hanging fruit and declare victory.
Like Venezuela.
But a war against Iran is not one of those scenarios. So I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, there will be a lot of forces, pro-Israeli forces in the administration pushing for that. But, ultimately, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think, that's what Trump signed up for.
From your mouth to God's ears, because there are a lot of military people that have been on this channel that are of strong belief that. So I had Colonel Wilkerson on the show. Wilkerson had went so far as to say by Thanksgiving, the United States will be involved in a war against Iran. And then when he came back on the show, he said, after kind of getting an assessment on Iran's capability, there's been a postponement. There's like, okay, maybe we don't want to do this yet. Maybe we need to do this later. But that's always the
Well,
irony, right?
Jamar, you have to realize that United States Pentagon, they run all sort of scenarios. They have been war gaming this forever. How to fight and win a war against Iran, and so far I have not seen one war game scenario which was not rigged that showed U.S. scored a resounding, convincing victory against Iran. So I mean, yeah, it's not. It doesn't mean they won't try. It doesn't mean they won't continue to do war planning to test out, game all kind of scenario how to do regime change in Iran. But I just don't think anything will be put into practice anytime soon.
Last question: China and Venezuela. China has a relationship with South America, obviously, and that relationship with South America has been growing. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, they have a port in Peru that is one of the largest in South America as we speak. And it is widely believed that part of the reason that Trump is even going after Venezuela, yes, it's the oil, but it's also because of this kind of relationship between China and Russia that is in their backyard. Give me your take on that. I don't believe China is going to get involved in a war, in this case, if Trump escalates against Venezuela. So I guess I'm not asking the question in that sense, but certainly they have a take on it. Russia has been seemingly dumping military equipment in Venezuela. Do you know if China has been doing something similar, or they have been more hands-off on this?
Well, I mean, if right now, for China to do that directly, it will not necessarily help Venezuela, because U.S. is very sensitive about this whole China in Latin America thing, like that. If there's a report of China supplying weapons, that won't probably gonna trigger something more drastic from United States. So China prefers economic assistance, which has been happening. China has been trying to upgrade Venezuela's oil infrastructure. One of the problem with U.S. sanction against Venezuela is the Venezuela state oil sector needed a lot of investment, and they needed to upgrade their refining capabilities, their a full spectrum. China can provide that. That's one area where China can provide that will help to shore up the mainstay of Venezuelan economy, which is oil. That's another area United States do not like to see, but it's kind of harder to justify a open invasion of Venezuela based on just that. And I think, again, even in the Venezuelan case, Trump will prefer like an easy victory. This is why they're doing right now. What they're doing is intimidation. They're turning the U.S. Navy there, killing people. It's to intimidate Venezuela, but maybe hoping to inspire some kind of color revolution within Venezuela itself. This is why they're given to Nobel nominate that lady from Venezuela for the Nobel for Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, this, and now they're running out a lot of manufacturing of consent by showing, you see, Venezuela's economy is not doing good. This is why we need to go save them. Of course, by saving them, that means we're going to send our military down there to spread democracy. But I don't think U.S. is ready for a big war. However, if Trump believes he can win an easy victory, that might happen. But so far, it looks like he is just leaning toward intimidation and color revolution and regime change. That scenario rather than a direct military invasion. But with Trump, you never know. We have to see how things develop down there.
Carl, you are awesome, man. Thank you for this. Carl Jha. He is host of Silk and Steel podcast, focused on China and surrounding regions and their history, culture, and politics. You can follow Carl on Twitter at Carl Jha, his podcast on Twitter at Steel Silk. letter N. Subscribe to the podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/silk and steel. Carl, always appreciate you joining me, man. Thank you for this. You be safe, okay?
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye. All right. Carl Jha is